I don't know if this was given what Homeboy thought it was given, though. Like, because you're basically admitting that you knew, if this is true, that you knew that there was sexual activity happening with underage people, and you stood by idly and did absolutely
for 16
nothing.
years.
But I think it's messy.
So you say he was afraid?
Yes.
Yeah,
He was afraid.
I think that's what he's saying.
If that's the case, he'd be more complicit.
Now, y'all know your boy Fat Joe done got caught up in a couple of lawsuits, but they say that's what happens when you join Rock Nation. Let's see what the Podfather had to say about this. Make sure y'all like the video and subscribe.
All right, since we got Fat Joe already in the conversation, there's some news that came out since our last show. It actually came out yesterday. Fat Joe he is being sued for $20 million by T.A. Dixon, a former Hypeman, who alleges that the rapper engaged in sex acts with minors and coerced him into, quote, more than 4,000 sexual acts to maintain his standing. This is huge in terms of a story because it's part of a string of stories. Again, we don't know the facts of the case yet. We don't know all the details. We're not saying who's right or who's wrong here, but we are saying that this is heavy. In particular, that the lawsuit says that Fat Joe, Joseph Antonio Cartagena, engaged in coercive labor exploitation, financial fraud, sexual manipulation, violent intimidation, and psychological coercion. And this was filed in U.S. District Southern Court. This is basically it looks like a Fed thing. It's a 157-page document. And just to add this last piece to it, again, his former hype man worked with him for 16 years. And according to the complaint, he had a, quote, unrivaled vantage point to observe the rapper's off-stage lifestyle and behavior. So,
and we gotta add
also,
that this is a countersuit.
Yeah.
Because Fat Joe sued him first.
For defamation of character back in April.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So he says I'm a Fat Joe, and then this becomes the countersuit. This is interesting. He says that Fat Joe forced him, quote, into humiliating situations, including sex acts performed under duress and surveillance, accompanied by threats of abandonment in foreign countries if he refused compliance. And he says the number was up to 4,000. Then he adds, there's a Jane Doe involved in this, and he says he personally witnessed Fat Joe engage in sexual relations with children who were 15 and 16 years old. And he lists 3 Jane Does, including a 16-year-old Dominican girl in New York who, quote, in exchange for cash, clothing, and payment of her cell phone bill, would perform oral sex and other sexual acts on the rapper. I don't want to go through the whole thing. Y'all can find it for yourselves, but there's 2 other Jane Does, and it's been everything from paying for BBLs to food to all these other things. And this is
and again, this is a RICO, if I'm not mistaken, right?
A civil RICO, yes.
What is a civil?
What is that?
Yeah.
You gotta.
A civil RICO, well, I don't know what it is, so look it up. But my understanding is when you take the company cards and start busting shit down and using your legal businesses to pay for illegal shit.
Yeah, but that would be a not civil RICO, right? Wouldn't that be a criminal RICO?
So he's suing him for money. Civilly, you sue somebody for money. A civil criminal is
we got a definition.
But it also says claims are like there's a statute of limitations on civil RICO of 4 years.
All right, please read us the definition.
A civil RICO refers to a private lawsuit brought under the RICO Act to recover damages resulting from a pattern of racketeering activity. Essentially, it allows individuals or businesses harmed by organized criminal activity to sue those responsible for the harm, seeking financial compensation.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So your organized criminal activity being blended with your legal business activities is, you're done.
Never heard.
Civil RICO makes sense. I don't know.
It makes sense.
It makes complete
Yeah, it makes
sense. I don't know
sense.
whether
After
this is.
reasons.
It makes sense to me, but I feel like you would have to prove the RICO part first, no?
Well, you do, but just not beyond reasonable doubt, just by a preponderance of the evidence. So in the same way,
anybody that worked for you, helped you in any type of way do some illegal shit, then, I think I learned that from the Puff case.
Puff case.
yeah.
But that's
The standard-
non-civil.
The standard of proof in a criminal versus civil RICO is different. In a criminal case, the government must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, while in a civil case, the plaintiff only needs to prove their case by a preponderance of the evidence.
Yeah, what I just said.
I mean, it's more likely than not that he's liable.
Yeah, and so in this case, this includes unjust enrichment, quantum merit, fraudulent concealment, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and money laundering. In this lawsuit, Rock Nation is also named. And they claim that the company, which represents Fat Joe, knowingly participated in, quote, concealing, transferring, and manipulating Dixon's authorship rights and royalty interests and sought to intimidate, harass, and obstruct the hype man's legitimate claims against Fat Joe, as well as 2 other people. This is why it becomes a civil RICO. They're saying that these acts actually cause him material harm and damage. That's the argument that's being made. And that Fat Joe is running a criminal enterprise, and the other defendants are Pistol Pete Torres and Richard Rich Player Hospitre.
This feels like he had a beef over not getting some royalties for doing ad libs, which wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed a royalty situation, and they're going back and forth about it, and he dropped the nuke.
Yeah,
quote unquote. That's what it feels like to me, outside looking in.
Because Fat Joe, in the original suit, Fat Joe was saying that he was trying to extort him after he refused to be demanded for ghostwriting work. Refused to be compensated for ghostwriting work.
And so that's when he went on radio. And
Fat Joe?
No,
Okay.
Dixon, and said things about Fat Joe. Specifically, he said that he enjoys high-level that he basically said he flies 16-year-old girl across state lines for sex. Fat Joe sued for slander. And then we saw this as the response. And he told Variety, which is my source right now, he said, this is the right way to fight Joe through the system. You can't fight him no other way. Joe thinks he's God. Joe thinks he's untouchable. So, again, I don't know who's right or wrong. I don't know the details, but this is bigger than I think people thought initially, because it's not just that he's saying Fat Joe did something. When you start getting into civil RICO, the other thing that civil RICO can do is, as we learned with Diddy and Cassie, it can spark a criminal investigation.
Yes.
So so this could get huge.
I don't know if this was given what Homeboy thought it was given though. Like, because you're basically admitting that you knew, if this is true, that you knew that there was sexual activity happening with underage people, and you stood by idly and did absolutely
For 16
nothing.
years.
But
Right.
I think it's messy.
So you say he was afraid?
Yes.
Yeah,
He was afraid.
I think that's what he's saying.
If that's the case, he'd be more complicit.
What do you mean?
I mean that he played a role to cover it up. You was aware. You didn't see any issue with it at that time. If that is the case.
Well, if you was afraid,
But
then
that's what
you're
he's
gonna get
saying, is that he
immunity.
was coerced into
You'll get
it.
immunity for your testimony, and
And them niggas, excuse me, they just use that as an angle. Them niggas don't be afraid. Them niggas be willing participants. in these
allegedly.
things. Allegedly. I'm not saying him. I'm
you
just
can be
talking about.
sued for that.
Right.
Thank you very much. Allegedly, people be willing participants. And it's not until things start to come down or things start to change where they want to use these angles, which is nothing wrong with it. If he felt, I don't think in the moment Joe was aware or he made it aware that he was uncomfortable. Or I think that he was.
If it happened, because
Yeah,
we don't
if
want
it
to assume
happened,
that he did have sex with underage girls. I don't want to put that on the table either.
I'm just talking about whatever, but even with the ghostwriting, even whatever, at the moment, I think a lot of niggas just be there for the ride. They did for the ride until time passed and they start to realize some shit. They don't make it be known in the beginning.
Are we in a different? Is this just a different era now? I mean, is this going to be the norm from now
Yes.
on?
It's the norm.
Gonna
It's
be.
the
I mean, forever. I'm
It is
saying.
the norm.
No, it's the norm because the U.S. is the most litigious place in the entire fucking world, and it's the result of late stage capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact.
I guess hip hop seemed insulated from some of that.
How?
Because hip hop was based on not snitching.
That's
and
what I'm
certain
saying.
Other street principles, and now those are gone.
Those
Yeah, I
principles
couldn't
don't
imagine
exist
20
anymore.
years ago somebody's hype man suing. I can see suing for royalty, suing for money, but
For sure.
this particular angle is interesting. And again, that's not the same thing is wrong with it. If Joe did what he's alleged to do, he should be held accountable. I'm just haven't seen this level of litigiousness in hip hop ever, and I didn't know if this was just part of kind of the extension of Me Too.
Nigga, ever since 6ix9ine did what he did and came back, and
Oh, that's interesting.
people was receptive of it, like
Some
the
people,
fans,
enough.
not the industry, and the niggas was hopping on records with him. It sort of put that snitcher shit like this for the new era. To me, look at Gunna. He was accused of snitching. He came back, had a #1. Was it album?
Yeah.
Like nobody looks at it the way we look at it anymore. It's not looked at it the same.
I'm sure that the rat and shit plays a part. I think a lot of this is coming from financial literacy.
Poverty.
Yeah.
I think a lot of shit is coming from poverty. I think that
all money
know,
shit,
people
yeah.
know now
No. I've been around you for 20 years. I was your man for 20 years. Let's just say I've seen you do some shit or I've done some shit for you, and now we parted ways. And now I'm fucked up. I'm back living in the projects, or I'm back, no disrespect to anybody in the projects, but I might not be living under the most ideal circumstances, and I'm watching you still ascend financially. So I might feel like, yo, I did mad shit for you. I'm owed. And the only way I can get that compensation is to sue you.
That's where the
Put some
know-how
nasty
come
shit
in,
on
because a lot of niggas might have been feeling like that before, but didn't know
that.
shit, I could sue you.
Yeah. I'm gonna go
Because
get
this
that.
happening all across the
I'm gonna
board.
go get
Niggas
that
is
same
just
lawyer
getting
that
sued.
won that case with such and such. I'm gonna go get them.
A lot of niggas.
And the internet changes
That too.
how the victim in these instances may feel in the 90s versus today. In the 90s, you trying to take down one of the most powerful people in the world, you're gonna have a pretty hard time. Today, you can have an audience from day one of support and people believe in you and some action being taken. So I think there's a lot of things in the pot.
Agreed. And there's more, even before we get litigious, I feel like the internet doesn't help because people just see you all the time, see you looking good, see you in the nice car, see you with the jewelry, all that shit. It's a constant reminder of, damn, I used to be around this and now I'm not, and now it's up. You know what I'm saying? Whereas before, it's out of sight, out of mind. Like,
Nigga moved to LA.
pop up on a source cover
Nigga moved
or
to LA. I
something.
don't even know that he existed, but now I'm watching you every single day with this chain and that chain and this watch and that
Getting a
watch. Like they
sponsorship
just
in
had
a
Joe
bag
sitting
over
ringside and they showed him and 50's watches when they was sitting.
Right.
The
Front
game
row.
that you went.
Yeah, front row.
They had Joe and he had the rainbow joint on. The rainbow Rolex, that shit $475.
Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you like, this nigga got $475,000. Oh no, give me some of that.
Right.
I beat this nigga up for you. I did this for you. I did that for you. No, I'm owed some money, and people might feel like that.
His attorney responded, said this is a money grab, said this is bullshit. Y'all could look for it, but he said all the things that you would expect an attorney to say in response to
I
something
got
like
it.
this.
The lawsuit filed by Tyrone Blackburn and Terrance Dixon is a blatant act of retaliation, a desperate attempt to deflect attention from the civil suit we filed first, which exposed their coordinated scheme to extort Mr. Cartagena through lies, threats, and manufactured allegations. The allegations against Mr. Cartagena are complete fabrications, lies intended to damage his reputation, and force a settlement through public pressure. Mr. Cartagena will not be intimidated. We have taken legal action to expose this fraudulent campaign and hold everybody involved accountable.
Anything? Does he continue to go about his day to
Yeah.
day?
I think he goes by his day.
Absolutely.
Does he get low?
Nope.
No, he shouldn't. No.
Because that's an indication
and
of
you
like
can't
guilt.
get low.
You definitely cannot get low.
He got a new show out. You can't get low.
You can get low. You can get low.
You could,
Well,
but
it would give off it would give off an image
Guilt.
that
It'd be
there's
bad
some
messaging.
truth in here. That you're afraid of something. If you go get low.
I think that's horrible.
I think that's
that's
bad.
horrible.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but
It's just certain practices that's just real nasty, that being one of them. Like, you should be able to get low when you're going through some things.
For my own mental support.
And you're under
yes.
duress
True.
and you're stressed and you fucked up. You shouldn't have to continue to show up with your best politician face and work because people think that you'll be guilty. It's some of this shit is stupid.
that's true.
What does the board think?
That's another important point. Yeah.
Before it gets to the world, you either got a board you either work for somewhere that has a board that's going to do due diligence, stand by you, investigate, try to flush out facts, hire a private investigator, or
You got a contract.
huh?
You got a contract.
But they all have these clauses.
And that contract might have a clause that says,
morality
yo,
clause.
anything that surfaces, we can immediately discontinue
the
our...
contract has a million sentences that gives the company an out. If you are valuable enough, then
They don't need
they
that
don't,
out.
They don't
ru-
take
they
that
don't
out.
lead that way. They go and talk to some people and see if we can fix it.
That's a
Can we
fact.
keep this guy or just try to be quiet for a little bit? So my wife is the one I can go home and tell, yo, somebody's trying some bullshit, it's a shakedown, yada, yada, yada. The company, not so much.
yeah, right. I would imagine that your family, you would have enough equity with your family of all people to be like,
Yeah.
this is not
Right.
true.
Or you don't have enough equity with your family, so when your family reads it, they know it's true.
Right.
Once again, we see Joe talking about somebody with a crazy case that he was just beefing with, and we see Joe handling it with pristine professionalism, okay? This could have been a time where Joe Budden said, you had a lot to say about me at the Knicks game sitting behind 50 Cent. Now it's time for me to kick you back in, and he didn't do that. And I'm saying, look at God. Look at the maturity in Joe Budden. Now, also, when Joe mentioned the fact that homeboy forgot that when he's saying all of these things, he's saying that he was a witness to all of these crazy things that Joe was allegedly doing. And it reminded me of the R. Kelly case. All of these people, they were considered innocent, even though they're in a documentary saying, I saw R. Kelly do this, I saw R. Kelly do that. But none of them went to jail. They weren't considered like, is the term co-conspirators or, you know, somebody who was also committing this crime with R. Kelly. They just get paid for a documentary after they seen R. Kelly do all of this stuff. Even one of his exes said she saw a lot of stuff. And I'm like, but those people get off as innocent? So that's crazy too. I remember the first accusation when this guy said, you know, Joe was flying out some underage girl and that was crazy. And it kind of got swept under the rug and people forgot about it. Now, I did see Star Report, who's another YouTuber. He used to work at Hot 97, if some of y'all are familiar with him. And he had a lawyer on yesterday, and this lawyer was saying that there's more to come for Terror Squad in general. So this might be a case that's similar to Diddy's case, right? Where you think it's small, but it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Also, Roc Nation was named in this lawsuit. And this guy's saying, you know, Roc Nation was helping Joe basically put this guy in a bad situation. And I just want to know how that aims well for Joe in accordance to his working relationship with Roc Nation. Okay. And that's going to be very interesting to see too. He has a lot going on. I like when Ish brought up the fact that, yeah, a lot of people are watching Joe with all of this money. I think he had on like a $500,000 like Ruby watch or something like that. We always seeing him with new jewelry, courtside, all of this stuff. And yeah, that could have people saying, hold on, I need a couple of dollars if I was the guy doing all of the dirty work for you, or I seen you do a lot of dirty work, right? And so, yeah, I think that's another part of this that people have to understand, that Joe has been doing a lot of flexing, I want to say for the last maybe 5 or 6 years. And maybe he should have known something like this was going to come up, especially if, you know, you might have stepped in the dirty waters a couple of times. I don't know if Joe did anything allegedly, but I do know these guys is like street guys, right? And I know the early days of hip hop, everything wasn't like squeaky clean, if y'all get my gist. And you know, some stuff don't go away. And some people do remember certain things, and they will use those things against you if you don't protect yourself. Now I remember when Queen's Flip was talking about the 6ix9ine angle, and he was saying, well, ever since 6ix9ine did this, well, I was thinking to myself, 6ix9ine's career is in the dirt. And I think 6ix9ine and Gunna are two separate situations. Yeah, maybe there are people who can snitch and get away with it, but I still think it's a large community of people that still call 6ix9ine and Gunna snitches. The difference is, and I think the difference between 6ix9ine and Gunna was a vibe guy. Gunna wasn't really on that hardcore street talk. Whereas 6ix9ine, you know, he had the Treyway guys behind him and all this other stuff. He was really talking that street stuff. So I think it's easier for Gunna to come back and still have musical success. And some people don't mind forgetting about it because he's making money in the music arena. Whereas 6ix9ine, he had to go to Mexico, right? And yeah, he could still float around, but the music is not selling like it used to. And I don't think the music was doing that good in the Latin market either. So I honestly think Gunna is the only one exception of a snitch we saw come back and really have real success. I don't know if everybody can do that. Now, when it comes to the lawsuits, is that a fair comparison? Like guys actually being rappers and snitching versus guys, suing somebody? Because people have been suing forever. But I think lately we seeing these cash grabs, and that's where the conversation starts, right? It's like, hold on. A lot of people feel like you can make a false allegation with little proof and somebody will settle. But I also want to say, I think the people who are at the highest top or the highest mountain of success in the hip hop industry, I think those are the victims. Like I said, Fat Joe been doing a lot of flexing like he was a Jay-Z or something like that. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, people want that bread. Same thing with Jay-Z. Same thing with Diddy. We know Diddy did a lot of nasty stuff, but at the same time, yeah, of course, somebody's going to ask Diddy for a whole bunch of money. Of course, somebody's going to try to get some kind of settlement from Jay-Z. Of course, if I see you with all type of diamonds on every day, I'm going to try to go after Fat Joe because that's the climate that we're in right now. So when I'm saying, of course, I'm saying that in regards to what's going on now. Like we see it going on, so of course it's going to happen again. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for y'all today. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Enjoy y'all weekend. Peace.